Happy New Year's from the Oklahoman rolls on here at the Oklahoman's Video Studio, the corner of Sheridan and Robinson in downtown Oklahoma City. There you have it, a look at the studio. Big thanks to our friends at Tracta's Flowers and Garden Center for the lovely red poinsettias. And our friends Marty Dillon and the gang over at Party Galaxy for the tabletop displays. I'm joined now by Dave Cathey, food editor of the Oklahoman, and you're no stranger to throwing a party, that's for sure. I remember your Cinco de Mayo parties were just legendary stuff.
A couple New Year's Eve parties too over the years.
Yeah.
Many years ago. Many years ago.
Again, a big thanks to our friends at Party Galaxy for the festive hats.
They
2016 is, well, just hours away. Dave,
right.
You covered the culinary scene in Oklahoma City, and it's a good scene.
Yeah, it's getting bigger and better every day.
I have friends
almost.
from out of town, and they're always surprised. They're like, wow, the food's really good in Oklahoma City, and it is.
It is terrific, yeah. It's been, I mean, in 2015, since I've been doing this since 2008 now, biggest growth I've seen by far. Largest number of locally owned new restaurants. It's just crazy. It can't continue.
Well, I was about to say that. At what point, and I hate to be Debbie Downer here, but at what point does it become saturated to where you actually have too many?
Yeah, and I'm afraid we'll probably find out here in the next couple of months of 2016. That's typically, January is usually a year when leases are running out, and you'll have some folks that are, you have some folks that already know they're going to shut down. They want to get through these holidays, make as much as they can, and then get ready to move on to the next adventure. So we'll know here pretty quickly. And of course, I always hate that. You know, I hate that anybody who's doing their best to try and add something to the community, add some flavor, you know, as it were. I'm always for them. I'm always pulling for them. But you know, it's inevitable. Yeah, the market can only take so much, especially when we're so tied to energy, and you know, and those numbers are not good right now. So
off the top of our live broadcast tonight, we were chatting with Kelly Dyer-Fry, editor of the Oklahoman, and we were talking about one of the big stories, perhaps heading into 2016. Was the budget deficit that Oklahoma is facing. And in upcoming stories of the Oklahoman, we'll look at a comparison between the 1980s oil bust and what we may or may not be facing right now in the energy sector. But we were also talking about Penn Square Bank. You had a story this week kind of recapping the top stories in Oklahoma City, including Boulevard Cafeteria. And if I remember that correctly, the mother in that story said they actually never recovered from the failure at Penn Square Bank.
Yeah, that was 1982, and
that was a long time.
That was a long time ago. The restaurant operated for decades after that, but she said the business was never the same after '82. And I can tell you from the folks I've talked to who were operating in those days, that's true. Like a place like Junior's, anybody who's working at Junior's can tell you that, and Junior's is great. Junior's is still great. It's a great place to go, and a lot of people still go there. But pre-1982, that
was the place to be.
It was sort of like Beale Street, all in one basement bar.
Sure.
So we've never fully recovered. The hope is, of course, that we've learned our lesson there in '82, and that we're better prepared for, and I think we are. I mean, we're already doing better than we did at that point, because places in '82 when they busted, I mean, it was a domino effect. Places were shuttering left and right almost immediately.
Well, what were some of your highlights of 2015?
2015, well, I think restaurant-wise, probably the Drake would have to stand out as the biggest. There's two things you got to look at with the Drake. A, there's just the fact that it's fantastic. It's a great seafood restaurant. We didn't really have a signature seafood restaurant before that. We have a lot of great places, like Pearl's does a great job with seafood, but they're sort of a lot of things to a lot of people, but the Drake really wanted to be that fresh daily seafood and oysters from all over the place. Nobody was really quite doing anything like that. So there was a lot of anticipation that was attached to it.
And that delayed opening there in the Rise.
Yeah, that's right. They were supposed to open the previous October. You get a lot of hype, you got a lot of people waiting for you, and that can make it really difficult. That adds a lot of pressure. When they opened those doors, they could barely close them. People were tumbling in so fast, and that makes it even harder. It makes it really, really difficult to produce when the demand is so much beyond what you were expecting. And they handled it, and they did it beautifully, and they're just continuing right on. So across the board, Good Egg, they're really hard to deal with.
Pretty solid.
Oh yeah, as far as operating, they hire really great people, and the Drake really for me is like their crowning achievement.
I don't know what I expected when I walked into the Drake, but it wasn't the heaven that is hush puppies wrapped in shaved ham dipped in butter and cheese. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's great stuff.
How do you even think that up?
Yeah, that's great stuff. Chris McCabe is their corporate chef. Robert Black was before him, and Robert still has a lot of say on what goes on. But Chris is really it's his job to make sure that these menus sing. And he and Robert worked together over 2 years in advance. And then Chris kind of took it in the last year, and he really ran with it. And they hired Chad Willis after he left the George. And Chad he's been one of the best chefs in town for 20 years. He was at the Metro for 9 years and turned and sort of helped to solidify its reputation over those years. People were sad when he left, and so very solid, super cook, and see, it's almost like an all-star team that they have in their kitchen. And that execution, but you can have all the great talent that you want, but you got to execute, and they do that. So.
You mentioned the Metro across the street or in that neighborhood.
Yep.
That's a big story too.
Yeah, another one going the other direction, the Coach House. Yeah, we still don't have the details on every single thing that's going to happen there. I have pretty good feeling that it's going to be a little skewed more towards a bar when it reopens.
You had a story this week in your recap of 2015. Kirk Fleischfresher, of course, the man behind the scenes there. Kyle was mentioned.
Yeah, Kyle,
his son.
Yeah, Kyle Fleischfresher is his son. He's been the GM there, and Kyle's, as I'm sure you remember, when he was really slinging drinks a lot. He's a fantastic bartender.
Many places, Ludovine.
Yeah,
Lobby Bar.
Yeah. And so that's something that he's really passionate about. He was the champion this year, the Shake Off this year. So
the Restaurant Association,
right? But they still are going to have a great chef in David Henry. So food is not going to go by the wayside. But I just think, as far as the feel, it's not going to be a formal dining.
Well, that'll
experience.
certainly be interesting because when it came to white tablecloth, that was
it's the standard.
top of mind.
It was the standard. And Kurt is also, of course, the director of culinary operations at Vast.
Right across the street.
And him doing that, I think that sort of signaled the direction that maybe things would go. And I know, the Coach House has been this fantastic place for all these years with their apprenticeship program, just pumping out chef after chef that has turned into something big for this community.
What are you hearing about that?
It's still up in the air. Kurt's got a few options that he's looking at to try and save it, but he can't be sure at this point that it's going to happen. But I know that that Western Avenue has some competition now. And when him and Chris Lauer got together back in the 80s and started building that empire along Northwestern Avenue.
Which is now known as Western Concepts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, actually it was then, they separated since then. It was Restaurant Resource Group. Gotcha. And they opened Coach House, Metro, Iguana Lounge, Earl's, Deep Fork, one right after the other in the 90s. And made Western Avenue just the place. Flips sort of rose up somewhere in there. It just became the place. Well, since then, Midtown, Uptown, Bricktown, Downtown. I mean, all these places have great new restaurants that have come in. And
which goes back to our saturation.
Yeah, exactly. How many, Plaza District, didn't even mention them. How many of these entertainment districts can you support? And unfortunately, I think Western Avenue is finding that out right now. And the Coach House, their numbers haven't been what they wanted. And they have other places that have been doing new things. And I know Kurt well enough to know that he sees this stuff. It's like, oh, I would really like to expand what we do, but it's hard when you have a place like the Coach House that has a really strong foundation of customers who have expectations and they pay plenty to go in and get what they want, and to tell them, hey, thanks for all these years. We're going to keep the name, but we're changing the menu. That's a really, really difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it also illustrates he's a smart businessman.
That's right. He understood there comes a time that things have to change or go away. So.
Dave, looking ahead to 2016, what can we expect?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the first part of the year, unfortunately, we're going to see some closings. A few that I don't really want to say just because let them make their own announcement on that sort of thing. But yeah, we have Good Egg. We've been talking about them. They're going to do a Mexican concept, Mexican restaurant.
The former Swanson's Tire over on Hudson, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's Hudson. And, Keith Paul, he and his wife Heather are the owners. And Keith grew up in Fort Worth. He's a Joe T. Garcia's man. And he and I have a lot of similar, we've had many conversations about Tex-Mex.
Well, you know the Austin scene and the food there.
Yeah, and so I couldn't be more excited because I know that Keith knows what the difference between, sort of your standard Tex-Mex fare and the way that you can really present that in an interesting and creative way and make top-notch food day after day after day. That's, I think, the hardest thing, and I think folks that go to our local family-owned Mexican restaurants, what you'll find is great food, but it's a little inconsistent. Sometimes that kitchen, it'll be a different guy in the kitchen the day you're there, and you can tell the difference. And that's just, you sort of live with that. You're paying lower prices. It's right by your house, so you live with it. Well, Keith is going to take, I have a feeling he'll take that kind of idea, and it'll be more of a consistent destination experience. I have no doubt they'll do huge business. Those guys with margaritas and chips and salsa, come on.
You mean those guys armed with
Armed with, yes.
Final question for you. I've been asking everybody tonight, any resolutions for 2016?
Resolutions. I've been thinking about that. I have a few. The main thing that I want to do is introduce some people to some new ideas this year as far as food is concerned. Got some ideas, that want to work with some chefs and show people some different ideas about what they can do at home, and introduce you to some more of our great chefs here in town, because, it just keeps growing. We're gonna, and the one thing that's happened in Oklahoma City that for food that's really exciting is the Whole Foods effect. And we talked about this when Whole Foods opened a few years ago. How all the different grocery stores in town really improved, really stepped up their offerings, and one of those was Buy for Less with the Uptown Grocery Company up in Edmond. They're going to open a second Uptown here, I think, in the spring.
That's up on May and Britton.
Yeah, May and Britton, and it's already the building is built. They're hiring and all that sort of stuff.
The one in Edmond's immaculate. You walk in, the shelves are just like
spectacular, and
on point.
The things that you can. I mean, if you spend any time in the kitchen, this is going to allow you the chance to be more creative. And so my goal is to help people be more creative.
One last thing. I already mentioned that was the
one
last
last thing.
But I got to give you, Clayton Barr, a shout out for the Turning the Tables on Hunger series, which was something you guys tackled this year.
Yeah.
I believe that will continue. With Clayton,
it's
they're on the street
continue,
side, but the video series we have been doing that.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit beyond that.
And that's another resolution. What is Clayton Barr? It was a little over a year ago. He told me that he had this idea where he wanted to see if he could get a local chef to come out to the day shelter at Westtown. That's the Homeless Alliance is Westtown. It's on 4th Street. Yeah, 4th Street, 4th in Virginia, and it's open 5 days a week. And the homeless go there for breakfast and lunch 5 days a week. About 500 people they feed, and there's a very small crew that feed these folks, and they feed them with food that's donated. They have a small budget to buy some staples, but they mostly rely on Walmart and their excess and I think some of the other grocery stores. But this has been great, bringing chefs in once a month. And what started out as just using what they had, almost like some sort of a game show. After a while, the chefs realized, I don't want to use their stuff, so they started bringing their own stuff. Whole Foods, that's another one. That was one of the last ones we did. Whole Foods, once a month, they were delivering prepackaged foods for lunch and leaving. So the last, I think it was October, they did it. They brought the staff out and they cooked on site so they could experience, what it's like out there and to see the faces of the people that they were feeding, which I think is great. That sort of that personalizing. Homelessness is a word that you can sort of, oh yeah, I know about that.
You can distance yourself.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
I shot I think the day of Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, when you guys were doing that, and Clayton's baking turkeys and delivering that. But when you see the face, you see the people there.
Human beings, small children.
Human beings, exactly. Good way to say it.
And it's like, oh wow, we need to help these people. You realize we really need to help. Before we fix a lot of things, we need to fix the fact that these folks
look at your own community.
Exactly. When we have weather like we've had here. Where were those folks? I was fortunate enough. I had power most of the time, and but even when I didn't, I had a shelter and I had somewhere to stay and I had food to eat. And to think that we have people, including, like I said, small children, at a lot of these things that I've been a part of, it really makes you think we need to take a step back and do better there. And that's something Turning the Table on Hunger is trying to do that. And Clayton and I talked a little bit, and he's definitely wants to see an increase, get more chefs, and so it's not just once a month, maybe go to twice a month, and seeing just how much of that calendar we can fill out, and seeing how many folks from out there in the community will start showing up and helping out, because they need help every day, and they don't need help with coming up with all the ideas. Sometimes they just need somebody to show up and chop an onion.
The execution.
Yeah, that's it.
I know Clayton's got some events happening New Year's Eve tonight at Whiskey and Slaughter's Hall down in Deep Deuce.
That's right.
Dave Cathey, his coverage can be found in the Oklahoman. Food coverage, fantastic food coverage. It'll make you hungry. Every Wednesday, of course, you can follow him on Twitter and on newsok.com as well. His Twitter handle, The Food Dude. Dave, thanks for stopping in tonight. Happy New Year's to
Same to you.
You and yours.
All right.
We'll be right back, guys.
You be playing.